Hello, I'm Tom Moore from the Bartitsu Lab, and in this video I wanted to talk about some of the tips, techniques and strategies brought to you by Teddy Atlas. Teddy Atlas is a famous coach protege of the very, very famous Cus D'Amato, trainer of Mike Tyson. He's a tough, gritty New York coach trainer, and he spent a lot of time in correctional facilities as a younger man. He's had a slightly shaky start to life, but he's trained some brilliant, brilliant fighters. He's got some great content, and I really encourage you to go download his stuff, watch his videos. He's a great man, great trainer, very interesting human overall. But here are some of the things that have come out of some of his latest batches of content, which I thought I'd share with you. So, one of the first things, obviously, being a protege of Cus D'Amato, Teddy Atlas is a big fan or advocate of the peekaboo boxing system. Peekaboo boxing system, namely having the hands very close to the face, moving in a pendulum style manner, getting up close and landing solid bombs, not playing for rounds, but winning the fight, It's an up close, pivot based, footwork based system, keeping the head moving at all times, coming in and smash. So you can understand that for someone like Teddy Atlas and Cus D'Amato, being able to slip properly was very important. And one of the things that Teddy Atlas rightly picks up is that many people, when they're slipping, what they will do is use their head to counterbalance. So they'll slip, imagine I'm slipping to the left now, they'll slip and they'll bend their knees and they'll move their shoulders, but they'll move their head downwards and diagonal, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot of people will do this. The problem is that it does not sufficiently move the head for a canny fighter. You know, fighters are used to people's heads moving. If you successfully hit a head, boom, it's very unlikely that head is going to be the exact same place. People are very good at tracking the small number of inches that a head may move once you've hit it. So for many people, when they're practicing slipping, because it's more comfortable, they will keep their head, they'll angle their head like so. Slip, 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 slip. They'll essentially act like a recently headless man. The head is just sliding off. Slip, slip. Teddy Atlas is very, very keen that you keep your body as one locked in element. So if you imagine all of your torso, your neck and your head as one particular item, as opposed to slipping your head or bending your knee, you move that entire unit. You move that entire unit. Move the unit. So this whole piece is one rigid mass, which tends to get your head a lot more out the way. Bending at the waist. Bending at the waist, bending at the waist, bending at the waist. It moves the head in a more unorthodox way than the small micro slips. A lot of people, when they're in the mirror, they move around, they feel all jazzy, and they'll do these things and consider that they're doing head movement. Someone like Teddy Atlas, that knows that fights are won in millimeters, not inches, moving your head this way in this pendulum style format is very, very important. Keeping this locked in. Move your entire head and body. Your entire head and body. Your entire head and body. So it's a big deal for Teddy Atlas to not just slip with a small movement of the head or neck. Shift the lot. Shift the lot. Shift the lot. Because that makes it much harder for an opponent to orientate where you are and attack you properly. Another key element of Teddy Atlas is when you're up close, imagine you're fighting in a foxhole. By a foxhole, you know, when soldiers dig a hole in the ground, they lie down in it, come up, pop, 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 down in the foxhole, back up, pop, pop, pop. The foxhole keeps them safe. So Teddy Atlas's foxhole principle is this. Once you're up close, step one, don't be in the murder box. There's no point in my shoulders and his shoulders being squared, because we can both fire our guns at each other at the same time, and it'll be the shittest chin we'll lose. So obviously, first point of call, no-brainer, is making sure that you're stepping off at angles. Yeah, there's not really much that needs to be said about that. You can find a lot of content about that elsewhere. But then what he does is make sure that when you're not firing, so if you follow that soldier analogy, when you're not firing, duck back down in your foxhole. So if imagine I've worked my way to this particular position, perhaps I've used that head movement and I've got in and I've fired some stuff. Soon as I stop firing, I don't admire my work, I don't press on, I don't just end up in a mindless wrestle. I drop back in my foxhole. So again, you bend at the knees, you get yourself close to the opponent, back in that foxhole. When I want to fire again, I can exit the foxhole. So when I'm not firing, I'm in it. When I am firing, I'm out of it. So again, it just gets you in the habit of dropping those levels. And there's a number of good reasons for boxing. People aren't particularly adept at punching down. And if you're off centre, if you haven't stayed in the murder box, uppercuts are going to be difficult to land on you. If you stay centre and drop in the foxhole, you're just going to catch an uppercut to the chin. If you're off centre, drop into that foxhole, he can't really uppercut you. It's hard for him to land decent knockout shots on you. Yes, he can clip you. Yes, he can hit your body a little bit, but he's not going to cause major damage. Whilst in your foxhole now, can jump up and explode and do nasty, horrible stuff. So Teddy Atlas's foxhole principle is get off centre, get up close. When you're not firing your gun, get the fuck in the foxhole. When you are firing the gun, come back out, do as you will. As soon as you stop firing, back in the foxhole. Which brings it to another Atlas Customato principle, which many people forget. Move before you hit and move after you hit. So obviously it's a game of boxing. Both protagonists are going to be skillful at hitting things, especially things that stay very still. We tend to hit things that stay still more often than we hit things that move. We tend to hit the bags, we tend to hit pads which don't necessarily mirror very unorthodox head movement as a rule. But for Teddy Atlas and the Customato camp, soon as you've landed, you need to get on your bicycle and move. You need to get on your bicycle and move. Now, if I look at boxing for martial arts purposes, which is my main interest area, it makes a lot of sense because we believe in something called the Ooda Loop, to observe, orientate, decide, and then act. So, if I've smashed him here, whilst I've caused him pain and damage, if I haven't severely disrupted his consciousness, he's already done the first half of Ooda. He's already observed where I am. He's orientated himself somewhat towards me. He knows where I am. He knows where he is. All he needs to do is decide, I'm going to punch him back and act. Punch me back. It's a short decision-making process. If I land my shots and move, he now needs to observe where I am, orientate himself towards me, decide and then attack. So I earn myself an extra 50% of the cognitive decision-making process. So moving before you hit means that he needs to re-observe, reorientate, and while he's doing that, you're hitting him. So if I move and then hit, he has to track me somewhat and then decide. So moving before you hit, very, very important. Moving after you hit, after you've landed that final shot, don't allow him a quick fire decision-making process. Deny that to him by moving off again. So it's very important if you're following a Teddy Atlas Customato system, get used to a move before a hit, boom, do your business, do what you got to do, and then move again. The exception obviously is when you're very close, your movement options are a little bit more limited, so that's why the Foxhole system comes in. Boom! He has to decide and orientate how to attack me when I'm down here. But before he does that, I'm going to pop out my Foxhole, pop, pop, pop. So I'm here. By the time he's orientated, observed and decided, I've already come up with a flurry of nasty stuff. So again, nice and simple. When you're out in the wild, when you're out in the open, move before you hit, or move after you hit, so he has to start the Ooda process again. When you're up close, get in the Foxhole, so it's harder for him to land knockout shots. I'm on balance. I'm also in a very good counter-grappling position, because I've dropped my mass, I've dropped my body weight. So again, even if you take yourself outside of the boxing context, because I've got in the Foxhole, I've changed the level, which means I can grapple more efficiently. I've got access to legs, hips, underhooks, other bits and pieces. You know, I can shoulder ram him into stuff, but also makes his ability to strike me very, very hard. So again, dropping down to the Foxhole is very useful. Also, one of the reasons why I like the Foxhole in self-defense orientation is most people keep their weapons in a waistband area. So if I get used to landing some shit and then being down here, I can manipulate spaces to foul a draw. So if he's looking to draw a knife, I can manipulate that hand and prevent it. I can grab that weapon myself, I can draw that weapon myself, I can do other stuff because I've fired into the foxhole. I've got better grappling options, I'm safe from his striking relatively, and I've got access to potential weapons should they occur. So again, all round very, very useful. Another thing that you might have seen is the snake charmer jab. Snake charmer jab is simply making people track the lead hand, making people track the lead hand. So again, he's pouring these jabs, he's moving these jabs, he's getting you used to the notion that they're just chipping, or they're just floating. He calls this setting the table. So he calls the use of the jab setting the table. You set the table, you deliver the dinner. Bam! From here. So with his snake charmer jab, he's essentially making your eye track the fast moving thing. A bit like skeet shooting or pigeon shooting. He's making the human eye, the predatory human eye, track the fast thing that's in front of them. So the hand, the snake charmer jab, it's moving, it's obstructing, it's throwing garbage. You know, so again, it's just annoying, obstructing, diffusing, cognitively messing with that person. As he's snake charming, then boom, firing that shot. Now, very seasoned fighters will know what to do, and they'll, because that hand's out there in a purposeless jab, they might come over the top with a hook, fire a big bomb of an overhand, so it won't work all the time. But sometimes it's very good in a fix. If you can't impregnate someone's defences, if someone's defences are very, very tight, using the snake charmer might be something that opens up their counter parries, their extended blocks. You can draw out someone's really tight guard. So for the snake charmer, as you're moving around, get them to track the hand, probing, poking, moving, you just want to get that inch, bam, to land that shot in. So the snake charmer jab is all about motion, making people track it, changing the speed, tempo and cadence to make the human eye track the moving object, which is very easy to do. So you go to a human, go, wah! Their eye follows the hand. Wah! Bang! It's the exact same principle. It's just magic. Moving, snake charming, snake charming, snake charming, moves quickly, then you fire in that shot. And finally, the keys. Teddy Atlas refers to a lot of punches as keys. Some punches are punches, and some punches are keys to unlock the subsequent punch. And so, for an example, with Tyson, he'd find himself that because people were so used to Tyson getting up close, what people would do is they'd shell up, they'd tuck in their chin, bite down on their mouthpiece, and they'd be relatively hard to get into. Okay? So imagine that our Bob here is such an opponent. We've got too close, and he's just solid. And I can hit him, but I can't necessarily take him out of the fight, and I don't want the fight to go the full 12 rounds. So what Teddy Atlas proposes is some punches are keys and some punches are punches. So as you get close, here, he fires in the body shot behind the tight defence, just behind, keeping it legal, not going to the kidneys, but boom, getting it just behind. If you do that with enough venom and force, don't just tap it. A lot of people end up tapping up close. You throw that with enough venom and force, this elbow is obliged to come down. This elbow is obliged to go from a tight defence, defending my jaw, to a little bit defending my liver or spleen, depending on what side. In that incremental drop, I've unlocked this, so I've used the key, bang, to drop this a little for the next subsequent uppercut. So working hook as the key, uppercut to open the door, these are key principles for the Teddy Atlas system. So we're moving the boxing, we've got in the foxhole here. His guard's very tight, what are we going to do? Deliver that with power. So we dig this in really, really hard. As soon as that elbow comes down, we pop up out the foxhole, bam, with the uppercut. We're down in the foxhole, hit to the body, the elbow comes down, bam, straight up here. So those are some of the key kind of features of the Teddy Atlas system. I would say that as a smaller, stouter man himself, he trains people to fight like a small, stout man. So there are some things depending on your body weight, your height, your attributes. Some things will work for you, others won't. But to recap, Teddy Atlas, very strong on slipping with the entire upper portion of the body as one solid unit. instead of just these micro slips, which are very easy to track. The Foxhole system. When you're up close, get in the Foxhole for all the reasons I mentioned. Drop your body weight, positional control, can dominate where the weapons are. But in a pure boxing sense, it's harder for him to orientate where I am. When I want to fire, I pop up at the Foxhole. As I do so, boom, I fire what I want to fire. Moving before you punch and after you finish punching to reset his Ooda Loop, very, very important. Snake charmer jab, tricking the eyes, making the eye follow the fast moving fist to set the table for the main meal. And the Tyson keys, being able to use some punches to unlock the punch you want. So don't just always think of a punch as a punch, sometimes a punch is a key. And Teddy Atlas is brilliant for this. You know, one of his main go-to tricks would be you fake the jab to get them to commit to the parry. So you fake, they commit, you throw a left hook over the top. You fake the jab, as they go to parry it, bam! So fake, withdraw, hook, fake, withdraw, hook. That's a key used by Teddy Atlas. Again, the first punch isn't a punch, it's a key. Unlock that small gap in defense by encouraging them to parry a little bit out of their zone. Boom, bam, straight in there with the left hook. Hopefully you found that useful. I do encourage you to go check out Teddy Atlas. All of his materials, very, very interesting stuff.